So you're thinking about moving to Salem, Oregon. It's peaceful, it's green, and it's way more affordable than Portland. And most importantly, it's a lot slower paced life than Portland or any big city that you may be considering. But before you pack your bags, there are a few things that you should know. And here are 5 everyday challenges locals deal with and why they might matter more than you think. Now, my family and I moved to Salem, Oregon several years ago, and I wanted to put this video together to kind of give you a head start and prep for some of the inconveniences that you may face when moving to Salem, Oregon that you're probably not considering. It's probably not on your radar. It certainly was not on ours when we were doing our research about moving to Salem, Oregon. And as a local real estate agent, I also hear about these inconveniences from many of my clients. Once the sun sets in Salem, especially on weekdays, your options shrink fast when it comes to entertainment. Now, while the downtown has a few bars, breweries, retro arcade, and escape rooms, historic Elsinore Theater, and the Grand Theater, the city lacks a true entertainment district. And if you're someone that likes to get late night eats, well, you're going to be probably disappointed there as well, because most restaurants close between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. That's including on the weekends. We just don't have like a lot of live music venues. We have some comedy clubs, but they're rare and they're not always open. We also don't have big venue concerts. We don't really have a lot of dance clubs. And we just don't have that vibe where you have those trendy cafes, those trendy lounges, those rooftop lounges. That's just not something that you're going to find here in Salem. Now, that's not to say there's not things to do in Salem. Many of my other videos talk about that. We have a lot of events and community events, but on your day-to-day or just your kind of typical weekend, if you're trying to be spontaneous and want to do something cool or trendy, probably not going to have a lot of options here in Salem. And if they are around, they're not going to really be staying open late for you late night owls. Also, depending on where you have visitors coming in from, if they're from big cities, they may feel a little let down, or you may not feel like you have a lot of options to take them around town, depending on what they're looking for. So if you're somebody that really thrives on nightlife, thrives on going all to the latest concerts or big shows, or just needing to be surrounded by the entertainment or just that vibe of being trendy, Salem's not going to be the place for you. Now, I will say, and I will admit, when I was younger, 20s, maybe early 30s, Salem probably was not going to be the right fit for me. I came from Los Angeles. I took full advantage of what that big city had to offer me, the clubs, the bars, the night scene, just that general buzz, the vibe, the entertainment. But I'm just not there in my life anymore. I've got family with 2 young kids. Quite frankly, I just don't have the energy, or really, I just don't have the desire. That's not why I chose to move to Salem. I wanted slower paced life. So it really hasn't affected my family and I, and my wife feels the same way. And so it really hasn't affected us since moving from a big city to Salem. So if you are coming from a large city or a place that has a lot of entertainment, you may feel a little let down, maybe a little too slow pace of life here in Salem. Now, I did mention there are tons of events throughout the year, community events, private events that are put on throughout the city that we take full advantage of. My family and I love going to these, but they're events. They're not our typical weekends and they're not typical weekdays. And they do tend to slow down during the colder, rainier seasons, especially in the winter. So you have even less options during that season. But again, this really depends on what you need and what you're looking for as your lifestyle. But be prepared. If you're looking for needing that entertainment, you're going to be feeling some inconvenience because you're going to have to go into Portland, which is about an hour away, depending on traffic. In Portland, you'll find everything that you need as far as entertainment goes. You can even shoot down about an hour and a half south into Eugene and find some nice entertainment spots there, a little bit more trendy vibe. But I will say that is inconvenient because you're not going to be doing that on a daily and something you may not want to do even every weekend. So just be prepped for that. Now, the next topic I'm about to get into has been talked about in many other videos, and it can cause some inconvenience, especially if you're not used to it. But before that, just as a reminder, I am Dave Fein with the Real Estate Dads at eXp Realty, local agent that loves helping people move to and relocate to Salem and the surrounding areas here in Oregon. If that's someone like yourself, which it probably is since you're watching this and doing your research, hit me up at the contact information popping up or at the description below. I'm happy to help with any of your real estate needs. And if you like what you see, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, comment below. Let me know if you're concerned about any inconveniences that you may be facing. Now, jumping into number 2 is the gray, rainy season that we have here in Salem, Oregon. Now, you may be thinking, you're moving for the Pacific Northwest. You heard it rains a lot, and it does. I came from sunny Southern California. We were warned by people that have lived in the Pacific Northwest, And I will say they were pretty accurate on how much it rains here. It rains a lot, especially if you're not used to it. Salem sees about 150 days of rain per year, and a lot of it comes from drizzle or overcast skies from November through April. You really don't have to be too concerned about snow, however, although we do get a couple snowstorms. Maybe each one lasts 3 days, but it really is kind of a reason to go out and celebrate. A lot of the kids in the neighborhood come out, they go on their sleds and just have a little bit of fun of it. The city does shut down a little bit, but that's not something that you really need to be worried about too much because it doesn't happen that often and it really doesn't stick that long. And sometimes it's not really just the rain that gets to you, it's just the cloudiness and the overcast skies. Now, it's not nearly as bad as Seattle, in my opinion, and if a lot of people who've lived in Salem and have been to Seattle, it's not as bad as that, but if you're not used to it, it can be pretty overwhelming at first. It was for my family. It took us about a year, that first season, to get through. We moved here in the summer. We experienced our first winter. And I will say there were some times I was kind of longing for that sun, waiting for that sun to pop out. And when it did, it was kind of time to celebrate. But now that I've been here a few years, I've come to enjoy it, appreciate and understand it, prep for it. It's not as inconvenient for us anymore. But it can cause some inconvenience, especially if you've got young kids. That was not something that we were used to. First, we had to buy extra clothes and buy layers of clothes. We didn't do that in Southern California. But it just takes that much longer to get out the door. And when you get back in, it takes a little bit longer to get the kids settled down and into the home. Now, you may be thinking, no big deal. But when you got two little ones and you're trying to wrangle them up, it can be a little bit inconvenient or annoying at times. And then you're getting into a car. And during this rain season, it's not like that we have a lot of these massive rainstorms that bring driving rain and make it really uncomfortable to be in. It's just this light rain. However, many days you're going to have sun in the early morning, rain in the late morning, early afternoon, and the sun comes back out. So if you're out and about, especially with kids, and you're out on your adventures, you just have to bring several layers of clothes and or just be prepared that it may be rainy, then the sun come out and maybe a little too warm. Again, this may sound ridiculous if you live in the Pacific Northwest or come from areas that it rains, but for me, it was inconvenient. And I think just in general, you can also have kind of a seasonal depression if you're not used to it. Lots of vitamin D. That's make sure you're good on that. It has a psychological component to it. And again, that first year I'd say was pretty tough. We got used to it again, but again, you're looking outside. We love being outdoors, especially when you're in Salem. You're just surrounded by nature and so many hiking trails and parks that you just want to be outside. Now, our kids didn't mind as much. They don't care. They go out and mess around in the water, but it does slow you down, or it makes it a little bit less convenient to go places, especially outdoor adventures. And if you are someone that is needing the sun or susceptible to kind of the seasonal depression, you may want to come out here during that fall and winter, even early spring, just to see what the rain and how it affects you, because that's not going to be any fun too if you're just going to be down during that season, because that's a long time to be. It's a half the year basically that you have some sort of precipitation. Now, of course, because Salem is in the Pacific Northwest, the city is well prepared for indoor entertainment. And I go back to, especially if you have kids, because, well, that's our life. They've got a lot of indoor entertainment spots, trampoline parks, activity centers, and so much more that the kids can enjoy and that you can enjoy still going out during this rainy season and still blow off some steam with your kids so they're not just cooped up in the house all day. We don't have terrible humidity during the summer. All in all, it's pretty mild. It just can be damp and wet through a big part of the year. And our summers, in my opinion, are near perfect. And that's coming from someone from Los Angeles who knows what I think perfect weather is. So yes, it rains a lot, but we do have a lot of great things weather-wise that come out here in Salem. Third on the list of our 5 inconveniences is the lack of public transportation, or at least lack of good public transportation. Now, I'll start off right away saying I was not used to good public transportation coming from Los Angeles. We had it. It's not that great, so it didn't really affect my family and I. And frankly, LA is a big car culture. I don't mind being in my car. So, but we do have a lot of people coming in here from places that have good transit systems. So there is some disappointment when coming to Salem, and it can cause some inconvenience, especially if you only have one car in the family, since you were used to jumping on the metro or light rail lines as a way to commute around town. Now, Salem's public transit system, it's a bus system, it's known as the Chariots. It has improved over the years, but it still falls short for many people living here. The routes are really limited, wait times can be long, and the evening services are fairly minimal. So owning a car when moving to Salem is going to be a necessity. Now, if you live in the downtown area, you can probably get away without it, although there's just not a lot of residential options right now in the downtown area. So, and if you're trying to get from like South Salem or East Salem on the transit system, again, it can be inconvenient, can take a little while. And the biggest complaint I hear about it is, sure, it can take you to kind of the major spots throughout Salem, or maybe if you find that a route takes you right to where you work, that's great. But outside of that, you're going to take the bus somewhere, then you're going to have to either walk it or call a Lyft or an Uber or figure out another way to get to your destination, because it really doesn't get you everywhere you need to be throughout Salem. Now, it does run through our sister city up to the north through Kaiser, so it can connect you into that city as well. But again, it really doesn't get you everywhere you need to be. So again, if you're coming from places like Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, or other places that have great rail systems or great transit systems, you're going to be disappointed and you may feel some inconvenience when living in Salem. Now, you may be thinking, I'm a biker, no big deal. We do have bike lanes throughout the city, downtown area and other streets, but it's not super biker friendly. Yes, we've got a lot of park space, which have great bike paths to enjoy nature, but that's different if you're using the bike to get around town. People do, but again, it's not super convenient, and it's really not something that a lot of people do here because it's not really set up for that. Now, you may be thinking, well, if I have to be in my car, what's traffic like? And I can say that kind of depends on your perspective. Now, I will always say traffic is not that bad here in Salem, especially if you are considering moving from a large city. This is nothing. But locals here will let you know a different story. And I will say, as more people move to Salem, the infrastructure is a little bit lacking, and I have noticed a little bit of uptick in traffic. However, it's not that bad. For me, it's like it takes me an extra 5, 7, maybe 10 minutes to get to my destination. Whereas when I lived in Los Angeles and when I've traveled to other big cities, man, it could take you another hour during traffic. And sometimes traffic is all day in these big cities, or at least a big chunk of your day. Whereas here in Salem, your most trafficked times are going to be in the morning when people are going to work, and late afternoon, early evening when people are coming home from work. But again, it's really not that big a deal if you're moving from a large city. All right, number 4 on the list of the top 5 inconveniences of moving and living in Salem, Oregon, is the slower economic growth that we have here in Salem. Salem's job market is heavily anchored in government, healthcare, and education. And compared to Portland, Bend, or even Eugene, there's really a noticeable lack of private sector innovation and startup culture here in Salem. If your career lies in tech, finance, or the creative sectors, job options are fairly thin, and professionals in the tech, media, and marketing are often looking elsewhere. Sometimes even new graduates find it hard to get into the job market in the sector that they studied. And a lot of people find it harder to network here in Salem, although we have the Salem Chamber of Commerce and they do provide a lot of network opportunities, and more and more people are moving to Salem, so these opportunities are growing in general. There's still a lack of it when comparing it to Portland, or if you're coming from a large city. There's many cases where a lot of people may start their careers here in Salem, but find it a little bit harder for upward mobility, again, because of the lack of options or the amount of industry that they're in, and they end up having to move to places like Portland, Seattle if they're staying in the Northwest, or out of state in general if they're looking for a particular industry that just isn't here in Salem. Now, with the increase of remote working, a lot of people are choosing to move to Salem because they still want the slower paced life, and they still get to be in the industry of their choice because their companies aren't requiring them to be in the city that the headquarters is in or wherever the business is located. So we are seeing an interesting mix where we see people in industries that aren't necessarily the most common in Salem, but they're growing here because of the remote working force. And as I mentioned, because more and more people are choosing to ditch the big city life in general, we are seeing some of the industries that are lacking here grow and expand, which causing more job opportunities and larger network opportunities as well. However, if you feel like you need to be surrounded by industry, surrounded by networking, and just being in that buzz or that business buzz, that environment, Salem's going to be lacking. It's going to be cause inconvenience because if you need that or want that, you're going to have to go into Portland or Eugene. Bend's going to be 3 hours away over the Cascade Mountains, so that's probably not going to happen. But again, it just makes it inconvenient if you need it because you're going to have to get in the car and travel there. Now, the fifth inconvenience about living in Salem, and this one I hear quite a bit, is the limited options in dining and shopping. Now, again, if you come from a big city, this may be a factor for you to consider, and it may become inconvenient for you because you're going to have to travel away from Salem to get kind of that fix that you're going to be lacking when moving to Salem. Now, Salem's food scene is improving, especially in the downtown area and at the public markets, but it really still lacks the variety and depth that you're going to find in bigger cities. While you're going to find foods from all around the world here in Salem, it is underrepresented, and a lot of the trendy and upscale dining options are kind of far and few between. There are a few restaurants that are favorites to locals that kind of have a little bit of that trendy vibe, and that's the Cozy Taberna, Da Vinci, Amadeus, Wild Pear, even Bentley's is on that list. But in general, you're just not going to find as many options as you would in Portland, Bend, and Eugene. So if you're a foodie or someone just follows food trends or just really needs that high-end quality food all the time, Salem's going to be lacking that. It's going to be inconvenient for you because you're going to go into Portland. In fact, a lot of people do date nights in Portland or go into Portland just to get into their food scene. Now, I'll say my wife and I have been up a few times. I go up there with my friends, but we're pretty happy with what we have here in Salem. And again, I come from Los Angeles, surrounded by amazing food, and we're just fine here in Salem. We have our favorite restaurants. We get to go back to our favorite restaurants because we do have a really cool seasonality when it comes to food because we are surrounded by farmlands. A lot of the food is fresh. A lot of the restaurants and chefs here have seasonal menus, which makes it kind of special. And again, as Salem grows, it's kind of the trend here. As Salem grows, more people come here, including culinary experts and chefs, bringing in their skills and their creativity to Salem, adding more variety and more upscale quality when it comes to dining. Now, if you're driving out to Portland for some great restaurants, you might as well throw in some shopping too, because again, Salem doesn't really have a shopping district or a real big shopping scene. We've got two big shopping areas here, and that includes the Willamette Town Center here in Salem. Again, big box shopping, got a few casual restaurants. There's a movie theater there. And then you've got Kaiser Station, which is a little bit newer. It's in Kaiser's, the city to the north of us. And again, big box shopping, casual food, and that area is growing. But as far as like trendy shopping or upscale shopping, we don't really have that. We've got some small boutiques and some fashion stores and some unique eclectic stores in the downtown area. However, again, comparing it to a big city, not a lot of options. Now, between Salem and Portland, you've got the Woodburn Outlets, which is the big outlet center. But again, it's not going to really quench your thirst for fine shopping or fun shopping that you're going to have to go into Portland for. We do have an indoor shopping mall here in Salem. It is a bit dated. Now, the good news is a developer bought it recently and they're revitalizing it, trying to bring in more shops, more trendy shopping, some better restaurants, and they're even upgrading the theater that is connected to it as well. So hopefully that becomes a destination or a place to go as far as better shopping here in Salem. But if that's your jam, if that's your vibe, you want that being around the trendy shops and the trendy restaurants, Salem may not be the right place for you. Or if you are here, it's going to be inconvenient for you because you're going to be going up to Portland more often than you probably want to. So just be ready for that. As I mentioned, like you, my family and I did research about moving to Salem, Oregon. There's not a lot of videos about the lifestyle and the realities of what it's like to live in Salem, the good and the bad. My channel has it all. I hope you got that from this video, learning about some of the 5 inconveniences that you may experience while living in Salem, Oregon. We've experienced them, but we've gotten over them. Some of them really didn't affect us all that much. It really depends on what you're looking for when you're making the move to Salem. And again, I am a local real estate agent, Dave Fein with the Real Estate Dads at eXp Realty. Hit me up at the contact information below or popping up on the screen if you want to talk about home purchasing or buying a house here in Salem or the surrounding areas. And hit the like button if you like what you see. Gets the video out to more people like yourself thinking about moving to Salem. Also, comment below, like to hear from you, and subscribe to the channel to get more of my videos.